Welcome and hello and welcome and hello and welcome and hello and welcome and hello. Hello and welcome and hello. Thank you for joining me on a super special, super duper edition of Poco Moss, the show where we give you just a little bit more, guys. Sorry I haven't been with you in a little bit. Just been super busy. Got a lot of stuff going on, basically work and bunch of, turd toiling terrariums. But anyway, hope everybody's having a great one. We got, of course, Dynamite Farts 69. The great Dynamite Farts 69 has joined us. We really appreciate you. Just kind of classing up the joint a little bit with your Dynamite Fart 69ing, which we certainly appreciate. It's an art film, folks. It's an art film. Don't criticize. Anyway, welcome and hello and welcome. Thanks for joining me. They call me Cornbread. I'm moistoy. I crumble under pressure. They call me a DJ Patchy Drizzle because I can throw a wet blanket over any party. They call me Stubby Cohiba due to an unfortunate manscaping accident I had with a vintage Vitamix blender outside of Coral Gables, Florida in the late 1970s. They call me the Tugboat because I'm short in stature, pull more than my own weight, and I'm rarely far from my own port. They call me Stock Karen because I am a huge whiny Karen, and I'm always complaining, and I'm always doing stupid stuff and then blaming other people for it. I don't know. I guess that's enough for nicknames. Anyway, they call me Hurricane Lopez because I am my buddy whose name was Lopez was just thought I was funny on the tennis court as a fat guy spinning around, ended up with the nickname Hurricane Lopez. Anyway, that's not important right now. What is important is these freaking stocks, guys. What do we do with this? It's such an odd situation. You have these these quote unquote emergency tariffs, heading up to the Supreme Court now, whether those are going to be refunded, whether the president has those powers. You have, sort of the deportations. It was an reading sort of Ken Griffin's comments. If you don't know who Ken Griffin is, he's the founded Citadel in, I think 1990 or so, 1989, something in Chicago. And his personal net worth is about $50 billion, and Citadel has, I think, 70 billion or 80 billion. So I don't know exactly. I was reading it earlier, but I can't remember assets under management. So he's talking about the dangers of basically political interference in the Fed because once you juice the economy, you don't have any levers left. So inflation is not running rampant, but it's certainly not where they want it to be. And then you have these really weak jobs numbers being revised down from last quarter. Basically everything's everything's worse than we thought it was. Even before the tariffs kicked in, jobs were much weaker than the preliminary data was suggesting. So we have an economy that's in this sort of strange place because people are making money in crypto and people are making money in, AI stocks. People are making money in fintech stocks. The Lambros are doing just fine. The Tevises, the big money people, the Stock Mo's, the Chris here with an N, Tortuga Del Rio, of course, the great Carl Seamark with all that mattress money, all that Innerspring money. He was making money before they had those gels, those pillow toppers. You bought what they had. They had that special, outside $99 for a twin, $199 for a full, $299 for a queen, and then $399 for a king. Very straightforward pricing. It was the hallmark of C-Mark mattress, they used to call it. Anyway, guys, I have no idea. Of course, I'm not sleeping as much as I should. But I just want to kind of run through each one of these stocks, sort of see what I'm seeing, see where they kind of fit in with the macro, where they fit in with the narrative of what we think is going on right now. I still think SoFi is going to all-time highs this year. If they push through a rate cut, it's all the better for SoFi. But it used to be this commercial for this convenience store, AM, PM, and they just say too much good stuff because, the idea being when your fat, stoned ass went in there, at midnight, you're just overloaded with corn dogs and, the burgers and what they call the chicken sandwich. I mean, I'm not going to say I haven't eaten, in desperate times, eaten a few things off of that value menu. But the thing with SoFi is, what they're already doing is incredible with this loan platform. And then you have Noto saying, hey, we're bringing a full option suite on. And there's just so many opportunities to unlock more and more value with the member base, with the technology suite. There's so much synergy. Um, and I think they're only barely scratching the surface of the product offerings and the partnerships. They're going to be able to engage. I remember, if you look at the flywheel, it's like 10 things right now. I imagine in the not too distant future, that's going to be 50 things and then 100 things. And SoFi I think, the growth is actually going to accelerate. I think this company, I don't even think people know what this company is yet. And the chart looks extremely bullish to me. Volume coming back in, it's just coming up off the channel beautifully, kind of regaining this area where, 26, where it was trying to break through. I think it's definitely going to break through here and just go up. I mean, you look at the valuations like a stock like Hood is getting, and Hood is crushing it, and they're making a lot of money, and they're not growing the top line consistently. I just look at SoFi. It's the consistency of what they're doing, I think, will eventually draw those levels of institutional ownership, up to, I saw Tevis did a video like Jane Street's now the number 2 SoFi shareholder. I think everybody knows this is eventually going to be a monster. I think it's just a game of sort of musical chairs where they think they can, buy a dip. But I think the buy a dip days on SoFi are pretty much over, because I think everybody sees what this is and everybody sees the growth, and the whole argument thus far why they don't deserve a rich valuation is they're just a bank. They should get a bank multiple because all they're going to do is collect interest. And by this point, that's obviously complete nonsense. I mean, SoFi is a technology company at their core. They have chosen to be in the financial sector. I think, like I said, I call it surface water. You want to call it low-hanging fruit. You have this giant dinosaur of an industry that hasn't been effectively modernized, since the dot-com days. Even if you want to call it that, I don't think it's ever been effectively modernized. It operates exactly the same way it operated when I was a kid, when my parents were kids, when my grandparents were kids, when their great-grandparents were kids. It operates the exact same way it's operated since basically the Dark Ages. Since Martin Luther posted those list of grievances he had with his mega bank. He said, no more. No more. I have no idea what I'm talking about. Anyway, guys, I think SoFi, the chart looks really good. The fundamentals look really good. I think there's so much positive happening for this company. And if you get the rate cut, it's just going to send their numbers through the roof, I think. I think there's so much pent-up demand for loans and refund. We've had high interest rates for a few years now. So there's going to be a hell of a lot of demand for what SoFi is offering in terms of student loan refis, in terms of mortgage refis. I think they could definitely get into like automotive refis, basically any other type of refi. Why can't SoFi do their own installments for, dentists and different stuff? Guys, hold on one sec. Let me just grab a little bit of water and I'll be right back. Thanks, guys. Okay, I got a mini water in honor of my tiny wang audience. We're getting some extremely detailed analytics out of YouTube. It turns out the average penis size of my audience is 4.8 inches, which is, I think, almost a full inch below the national average. So, de salud, guys. We've got the smallest, tiniest wang audience on YouTube, even smaller than the Great Stock Mo, much, much smaller than the Canadian FinTech Mafia. It's just a crying shame, but you guys focus on your investments. I have no idea. All right, so we kind of didn't cover SoFi, at least not in any way that sort of made any sense. Let's talk about some of this news with SMCI. This is a good Ken Griffin article, kind of talking about his relationship with the administration and sort of what he likes, what he doesn't like, how he communicates, all this stuff. And then Supermicro. The stock spiked today when, call it spikes, basically back in the channel. Supermicro stock is spiking, unveiled AI partnership with Nokia. Now, you don't really think of Nokia as a massive like AI powerhouse, but it brings together Supermicro's switching hardware with Nokia's data center automation and network operating system to create an integrated data center solution for AI computing. I guess it kind of, puts everything in one package with the two of these companies coming together essentially. Supermicro, Buzzy Eye Play, that's all the same stuff. Dell and HP cutting in, Smart. Here's the thing. It gives Supermicro another avenue to ship product. The bottom line is if they can capture 30% of the market, 25% of the market, 35% of the market, the point is that market is rapidly expanding every single year. So if they just maintain a certain degree of consistency, capturing, say 30% of the market, and, Dell and HP carve up the rest along with some of the other, bit players, I think Supermicro is a very, very compelling buy. Not necessarily because of this Nokia deal, but taking a look at the chart, guys, it just popped right back up in this channel. You sort of saw it coming to this sort of pseudo wedge, and you saw it building a lot of support here. Pop back to here. Where's this thing going to go? It's very, very hard to say. You have these, internal control filing the other day, basically saying, hey, our accounting is still not up to snuff. Which you kind of thought based on the note in the first, quarterlies that were signed off on by BDO. They're basically like, we're signing off on this thing, like I said, because Aunt Sarah has, a Desert Eagle pointed at our head, and it's basically going to be our, our blood or our signature on that contract. So anyway, it's really hard to invest in Supermicro, but it's really hard not to invest in Supermicro. And not only do I think the chart looks pretty good from here because, it hit a similar level back here. This was support before, made a run. I'm not really, too worried about the gap or anything like that, but I just think this has been stepped down, very controlled. That's going to be the base. Now, why is that going to be the base? I mean, if you look at this stock and you look at the trends, it's really extraordinary. In 4 years, and you're going out to 2027 estimates, 1, 2, 3, 4 years going through here, you're going from 7 billion, they're estimating 40 billion in sales. Okay, net income, they're estimating it's going to go from 640 million to 2 billion. It's not going quite as fast, but they're investing a hell of a lot back into the company. They're not buried in you rarely see growth like this. And the fact that they've been able to keep the wheels on the road even somewhat is a little bit surprising, because this is run like sort of a family, business, like it's a restaurant or something. Oh, you sell, meat to your brother and you buy fish from your sister. It's like, but the problem is you're dealing with, a multi-billion-dollar publicly traded company where you have to follow all sorts of pesky rules and regulations so that when people look at the books and they decide whether or not they want to invest in your shit shack, they actually have some level of confidence that the numbers you're putting forth or proffering on offering, proffer and offer, but that those numbers actually have some semblance or tie to reality. And with SMCI, I think the numbers are very much tied to reality. I just think they're a little bit in over their heads, and I think the wigger needs to finally be let go, and they need to do what it takes, pay what it takes to hire a high profile CFO who has a lot of experience. But if you look at just the revenues, if you look at the gross profit, the margins are not there, but these sort of coincide. Like if you look at the valuation multiple, price to earnings kind of is 20, then goes up to 40. It goes with the product cycle, with the NVIDIA product cycle, because you just have to look at a business that's cyclical and learn in your mind to kind of average it out. So you don't freak out about it and you think, okay, after this, NVIDIA is going to come out with another processor. This is not the end of the line. They're still, the undisputed king of kings in this, the Michael Jordan of processors. But let's see. Yeah, that's a lot of shares, Justin. I haven't looked at any of this data. I'm so set it and forget it right now with SoFi. I'm just not messing around with options. I just have a huge share count, and I'm just holding those shares. I'm not trying to get cute. I'm not trying to sell and buy back. I'm just not doing any of that. I'm holding SoFi for 100 plus, years down the road when I want to retire if I don't have, a massive infarction. But super micro climbing even a little bit more after hours. So I don't know. It's up to you guys. How do you feel about that one? But I think the chart looks pretty good. Now, last time you saw this sort of big green candle went up a little bit and then, fell back off a cliff. But this is a stock that's so easily manipulated by headlines. Good or bad, they put out a PR, they crash the stock. A lot of it just seems very formulaic and intentional, but they hold the stock at certain levels, here. It's the trading really never looks organic. You see these big hammer candles as they walk it down. I don't know. It just stinks to me. I mean, this stock, the way it trades, at like 1x last year's sales or whatever, you just think the stock is, they're just buried in debt. They're losing a ton of money, negative cash flow, and just none of those things are true. But again, how do you know? How do you have any confidence? Because Uncle Chucky and Aunt Sarah will not cut the cord. Cut the cord with the wigger already. Stop rehiring people from, days gone by when you had problems with the financials and with the SEC and where people were getting charges. They're like, oh, we're bringing in new people. Old people who have been gone for a while are not new people. New people are new people. New people are fresh faces. They're not, oh, this guy, narrowly avoided criminal charges with us 5 years ago. Let's get him back on board. Let's get him in the mix. Power 106. Big Boys Neighborhood. Phone tap. Got your phone tap. What you gonna do? Luther Luffey. You guys know Luther Luffey? Oh, God. What's going on, Katie? How's it going? Hope you're doing well. The great Katie Wentworth, of course. Probably one of the greatest Un Poco Mas viewers of all time. No, Jeff Presley, no slouch himself, the great Michael Anthony. He's your hero, baby. Yeah, it's extremely hard to trust, Michael. You want to buy the growth, you want to buy the pure agnostic AI play that everybody's like, oh, AMD is going to get in the mix. Fine, SMCI is going to make those boxes too, and they're innovating. They're a very innovative company. They're on the cutting edge, but it doesn't mean the very basics. Job one, if you are the CEO of this public company, is get reliable, honest books to the investment community so you have a chance. You're not a cat. You don't have 9 lives. You've already had 2, arguably 3 major accounting scandals, almost delisted. How can this fester for 7-8 years? How do you not at some point right the ship, put your foot down, get your house in order, just completely clean house, bring in a law firm, bring in somebody with the capability to hire a CFO in a timely manner? It should not take a year to hire a CFO. I know you have to bring in somebody specific, somebody, who has a huge garbage truck and who can clean up this mess and basically instill, confidence in market makers, investors, etc. It's not easy. It's not easy because you have years of scandal and nonsense, but the valuation is so compelling if they can do it. But if anybody can explain to me why they can't hire a CFO, I'm all ears, but I just don't get it. Let's see. In terms of Robinhood, obviously, that stock went nuts yesterday when they got finally the word in on S&P 500 inclusion. Just gapped up big time. It was trading at 100, and then it went up to like 110, and then at open 115. It's kind of been, today was down, quote unquote, a little bit, but the stock's been absolutely on fire. So is there room? Like I said, I'd buy SoFi, at a 30 billion valuation versus Robinhood at a $90 billion valuation, because I think, in my opinion, ultimately SoFi is going to be the bigger company and SoFi is going to win in the end. Now, I know right now, obviously Robinhood is the much bigger company, but I think, like I've been saying for a long time, I'll take SoFi savers over Robinhood's traders. But there's no arguing that Robinhood has been absolutely crushing it. And if you're a major Robinhood investor, you've been, extremely happy. But I would have to take profits here. I have a few Robinhood shares, not very many, but for me, this valuation is very, very rich, and Robinhood does not do well in down times. Robinhood does well when things are up and everybody has liquidity and everybody's trading. And I know Robinhood's diversifying what they do to a large extent. But anyway, I don't know. I don't know what to do with Robinhood. I just can't buy this run. I mean, for me, I just can't buy this run. I can't buy the PE ratio. I can't buy that their growth is just so all over the place. If you look at SoFi, it just looks, you follow a nice, beautiful line of growth. And, that to me is a long-term investment. But again, Robinhood's probably just mostly sour grapes. Robinhood's been absolutely crushing the ball out of the park. Day in, day out. I talked about Microsoft the other day. I was up $1 basically. The algo is just working extremely hard on Microsoft. You can see that there, this giant spooky ghost, Christmas tree type pattern. NIO is another one that I wanted to talk about because I think the NIO chart looks really, really good. You have sort of this, seahorse, Loch Ness monster pattern going on here where everything's below the waterline. Then you have the body here, then you have the head here. So that could actually be Nessie if you look at it. I like it because it's finding a little bit of support right here, and it's very, very orderly. And it really looks like it wants to go ahead and move back up to me. Now, if you look at the last, since sort of the last week of August, I don't think there's any doubt that this thing, bottomed out here in the high fives, and then you've been steadily moving up, a low of 6. Then you had a little algo glitch there at 610. You have a very clear one there at 612. And it looks like it really wants to build something here at the 625 level. And I think it's just going to keep, I've said before, it should go up through 720. I think this could easily go through $10. It just takes a couple critical announcements that there's some cars coming to the NIO swap network. One big announcement from, I have a feeling like CATL was offering NIO just too little, for the percentage of the power business that they wanted. It's like, this is whatever it is, 7-8 years of the company building out the swap network and all the R&D going in before that. It's not something that should be sold, in my opinion, at a discount before it has time to function. I mean, NIO's talking about selling on average, 50,000 units per month. They're talking about next month, 15,000 L90s, by December, 15,000 ES8s. So you're going to have, each car that comes on, you're talking about doing more than 50 battery swaps per year. So you sell one car, you're actually going to sell 50 swaps, per annum. So there's very few other car companies that have this type of recurring revenue built into their model. I mean, some have charging, some have games, some maybe, get a referral fee if they send you to the right drive-through. But NIO's on a completely different level. And I think anybody, is starting to see that. And then they're getting some previews of what the new SUV is going to look like. We've got NIO Day coming up. I just think there's a lot of positive catalysts coming up for the company. They sold, I think it was 6,300 cars last week. So there's nothing earth shattering, but, pretty solid. It's a really good product mix. They're selling more Envos, which is what you wanted. And then I think the new flagship SUV is going to really, really spike sales. It's just a very, very compelling value proposition, especially when you think about it as with a battery as a service, and the fact that all NIO cars are now standard with the 100 kilowatt packs. So they're putting a lot of value into the cars, and they're doing a hell of a lot to cut costs. They're cutting R&D. They're consolidating everything. They're looking at duplications. They're looking at waste. So I think NIO is really on the right track in terms of becoming a more mature company. What do you guys think? In terms of prop, oh man, this one's been really kicked around. Went up 6 cents today. Actually had spiked a little bit more. You see spikes up to the 240 level, and it's just really like, it really looks like it wants to bottom out here at 2. I don't know if that's the case. I don't know if this is manipulation. I don't know if the production is just not what they're saying it is. Because, you heard comments in their presentation. It's like, well, 525 barrels a day is below your projection. They're saying, well, it's above our projections for right now. It's not our ultimate projection, but I don't know. I don't know who to believe. I think it's very hard to trust management that you don't know. But I still think this company is going to get the resources out of the ground and make money. I know somebody who sort of knows somebody who really likes this young CEO. So I don't know. Should you buy the dip? Should you hold? I certainly wouldn't sell my stock at 2. I've been buying. Should you buy? I don't know. I don't have a tiny wing, so I can't really put myself in your shoes. But if I did, I would say I would probably buy, even without the tiny wing. No, I don't know. The thing you want is something just nice and manageable, so it's not going to scare anybody off. Anyway, CRISPR, this is a same thing with NIO. It's just this very controlled, contrived waterfall down to a very specific point. It didn't even get through and break through to 51.99. They actually kind of stepped on it. They went for it again here, and buying pressure coming in. So it's just basically a dump and pump, but it's not really a dump and pump. It's a dump and accumulate. I was trying to sort of explain to somebody, like, why would they hold the price down? Why would they accumulate? How can they trade the stock downward and accumulate shares? And just to give you an example with NIO, okay, this is the daily NIO chart. So the only place any volume comes is right at the end, there's buying, and then right here, there's buying. So if you look at all the volume, it starts basically here at like 620. And then volume up here kind of tapers off. But then this is all across this little, point of consolidation here, 6.25, whatever this is, 628. That's where the volume is. As this falls off, there's no more volume. So it wants you to believe, there's a pivot here, but all the periods of high volume are on the other side of where the algo wants to hold the stock. You see it kind of lose control here as, there's some buying coming in, but just look for where was it trying to make a market and where did they push it to, and where that market is, which is up here, is the direction the stock is moving in, is going to move in. I mean, if you have a bunch of willing and able buyers at 627, 628, 629, 630, you have a bunch of people who are willing to buy the stock, how long can they keep selling shares below that, shorting? I think you reach a point with these short positions where, anyone who's in any smart shorts give up and take profits. This stock just almost doubled in a matter of a few months. So if you were one of those shorts piling in down in the 3s, you really got hurt. Now, anybody smart was getting out down in the 3s and, covering their position and making a fortune. But, unfortunately, greed is unlimited. There is no off switch for greed. You don't say, hey, we took the stock from 70 to 3. Maybe that's enough. Maybe we don't need a 7th mansion in Connecticut or a 4th Bugatti. Then again, maybe you do. If you're compensating for an extra tiny wing, that 4th Bugatti just might be the confidence boost you need. Go ahead and whip it out at a crazy party in the Hollywood Hills or something, or whatever. Not that I condone that type of behavior. I think we already talked about CRISPR. I love Google. They just own all the data. You want to talk about valuable data? Everybody's talking about, Tesla owns all the self-driving data, so they're the only ones who can make a self-driving car. Bullshit. This AI can train it on any data. Who do you think owns more data about driving than anybody? It's Google. Everybody uses Google Maps, saying, well, you can't train it because there's all sorts of other data you can unlock in there. Google knows everything about everything you're thinking before you think it. Their AI is very strong. I was reading some article. They had more partners today, more partners yesterday. Google Cloud, leaning on artificial intelligence, gain more market share. Google Cloud anticipates at least 58 billion revenue boost over the next 2 years. Bank of America reiterates buy on Alphabet because of Apple's logical search partner. YouTube in talks with Television Univision. So I was begging you guys to buy this stock at 150. I mean, I didn't go super hard on it like I did with SoFi, but I was like, how can you not buy this thing? And again, that wasn't very long ago. This is just like, this stock was just 150 in May. It's cray, guys. These moves that these stocks are making is just, the volatility is like, I've never seen this before. And people are sort of starting to talk about a bubble. It's not just the housing market. It's not just big tech, but Microsoft, Alphabet, Amazon, they're making an incredible amount of cash. I mean, Microsoft's actually growing quite significantly. Amazon, not as much, but out of all of those, the one I really probably wanted to own more than anything, because I already owned a lot of Microsoft and a little bit of Amazon, I really wanted to own more Google, but it just, I bought a certain amount at 150, but the stock just ran away so fast. I mean, you can see the move. This move is sick, and then it gaps up on the antitrust ruling in their favor, and then it just keeps running away. The IBD people think it might have hit a buy point. It's flirting with a buy point. So I don't know, guys. Amazon, kind of an algo hold there, but I just, it's a similar chart to Google, but I think, you have this bigger dip here where Google just made a huge, I'd probably buy Amazon today at this valuation over Google, but I'd be very happy to buy any of them. I would buy Microsoft over Microsoft's, spiked to like 560 after earnings, and sort of the bears, I think some mechanics and hacks have been taking it down, trying their very best to hold the stock under 500, but I don't think they're going to be able to do that very much longer. IOVA is another one. Really like this one. Just, it's a very unique company. Your T cells for solid tumors, if what they're working on now and what they have approval for now is not indicative of everything, this company is going to, be one day. It's melanoma. It's a deadly cancer, but if they get into other solid tumors that are much, much more prevalent that need to be treated, the valuation will just go crazy on that data. Now, it's not there yet, but this is one of those names I'm just, I'll hold, I'll buy the dilution, I'll buy the fear, I'll buy any setbacks as long as the clinical data is there. The financials now, listen, you bring in a hotshot CFO and the best she can do is 350 million, at the market offering. It doesn't seem impressive, particularly at these low. Now, you'd wish there was an institutional investor, you'd come into like a private placement, but why are they going to pay above where the stock's trading? I mean, they're not buying the stock out. They just want to own equity. So if you can own equity at a certain price, you're not going to pay more for it. At least in my opinion. Anyway. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if prop's going to run this week. I think you have to start, you have to wait for cash flows. But I think it's going to start to look better and better and better. And I think they're going to put out those updates. And I think this price, if you look, insiders should know what they're buying, and they were buying at 5, they're buying at, multiple times. You're like, why aren't they buying the hell out of it? Well, they already own 50% of the company. I don't know how big their net worths are, how much of that net worth they have tied up in this particular company. But sometimes you reach a point where you think you found the bottom, and then the bottom falls out of the bottom, and there's an extra double basement bottom down there, and you're just basically screwed because you don't want to put any more capital into the stock. You're already fully allocated, if not more. And lo and behold, there's another dip, and you're kind of left with this thing. Well, should I just completely go nuts and ignore my own rules and throw my allocation, out with the baby and the bathwater, or should I stick to my guns and just ride it down, ride it back up? And if you do that, you're kind of disappointed because you didn't take advantage of the opportunity, but at the same time, you stuck to your allocation and you took more of the risk out. I guess that's the theory. Yeah, Google at 150, I think, was just a pretty obvious screaming buy there, but you know, always easy to say in hindsight. Yeah, I think it is building a base, but it's a very painful base. It's like when you're trying to measure the base from beneath the fat, trying to claim an extra inch or two, if you know what I mean. Know what I mean? Know what I mean? Yeah, it does appear to have come down here, tested, and then retested. So if it goes up, wonderful. I mean, it to me it looks pretty good. It looks like it wanted to go up and then they push back down, but I don't know. It's just yet to be determined if we can actually trust these guys or not. I think their business looks really good what they're doing. I think they have some excellent ground there. It's just, can they execute at this point? The business model is good, the ground is good. It's just an execution game at this point. So yeah, definitely a very nice little double bottom there, Chris. It's just, I think market makers are all over this one. Look at how effectively they've stepped the stock down. I mean, in the last year from 12 and then consolidating all the way down here in 850 and then down to 5, back to 9. So they've really pushed this thing around. I mean, I don't think there's much more meat on the bone as far as the bears short community. There's a huge short on the stock anyway. Yeah, they really do. I mean, they sound really good. I like the CEO. It's my history with them is not long enough where I can, vouch for the guy. Like, you vouch for him? You vouch for him, Lefty? Yeah, it's Donnie the jeweler. Yeah, most of us are definitely underwater. I'm definitely underwater. Yeah, but the PE is a little bit sketch because there's going to be dilution. We just don't know exactly how much. I'm going to check it out on Dilution Tracker. I will do another prop video. Anyway, guys, that's about all I've got for today. Yeah, some people think they did good last quarter. Some people think they did terrible last quarter. The fact that they integrated all the assets, they got things working, they got things rolling, I think it's a Herculean task to, take a company that's X size and all of a sudden you're buying assets that are, making the company 3 or 4x bigger overnight. It's just a lot to ask of management. And are they up to the task? To be determined, but they certainly sound really good. And they certainly sound like they know exactly what they're talking about in terms of cost controls, being efficient, and returning money to shareholders. And, if you're not going to whisper sweet nothings in my ear, that's second best. That's what I want to hear. Return money to shareholders. Anyway, guys, I got to run. Sore throat, got to pee, got a tiny wing, all of those things, all of the above. Anyway, un poco mas, blah, 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 blah. Thanks for watching. Don't know why you do. It's a total turd. Bye.